welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know, I am Tanya, and I have been living and working in Korea for 3 years now. So I decided to make a video about things that I have experienced during my time in Korea. So today I wanted to make a story time video about probably one of my most memorable dates in Korea, and memorable for not so good reasons, but it's a funny story now. So I have my other phone just notes so I could remember everything in order and give you guys the best story. So I just want to start off with, like, this is no way like bashing Korean men specifically or anything. It's just men or just dating in general is hard. It just so happens to be that I am in Korea, so most of the men here are Korean. But yeah, so yes, my title is a little clickbaity, but you'll see why I put that as the title as I go on with my story. So I want to first start off with this story time, or this story happened when my first year when I moved to Korea. So this was about, I would say, maybe 2.5 years ago. So during that time, I just broke up with my boyfriend, newly single, so decided to download our wonderful dating app that almost everybody uses. Starts with a T. I don't know if I should mention it because no free promo. But yeah, I think everybody knows what it is. So I decided to go on the dating app, because swiping right and left is super fun, especially seeing all the good looking men on this app. So during this time, I'm literally just like, oh my God, it's so hard finding a good guy. So my friends were like, oh, you should start like meeting older guys. During this time, I was about, I think, 23 or 24. So all my friends kept saying, oh, maybe you should start meeting like older guys who are 30 and up. Because for me, I usually don't really like a big age gap. So my age range wasn't very big. So, yeah. So anyways, so I decide, okay, I'm going to listen to my friends because, trust your friends. Okay, so I change my age range and I see this one guy kind of has good style. His age is, I think, about 31. So swipe right, we match and we talk, and from talking with him, I get to know that he is a hairstylist, specifically in Gangnam. And for those of you who don't know, Gangnam is in an area where a lot of like celebrities go to get their makeup done and hair done for any event they have. So in our conversation, before meeting, I do find out that at the salon he works at, Park Seo-joon, the main lead male of Itaewon class, right? He often goes to his salon. So I was just like, oh, that's cool. I'm not like a really big, like, oh my God, tell me more when it comes to like people talking about famous people. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, he's a hair salon stylist, right? And his salon has Park Seo-joon. Oh my God, I feel like I just really destroyed his name there. But has him as a customer. That's cool. So we continue talking on the dating app and we make plans to meet for dinner, right? And during this time, he's messaging me during his day. And from my experience, a lot of Korean guys like to send pictures of what they're doing or what's happening. But yeah, so he sends me a picture of this place, and that he went with his mom. It was a barbecue place, and I was just like, oh, that looks so good. So he's like, oh, we can go here for when we meet for dinner. So usually I am off at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, so we decided to meet on a Wednesday for dinner. So yeah, so time passes. I don't think it was that long, because in Korea they like to meet like as soon as possible. So Wednesday comes, and I finish work, I get on the subway, I head towards this area. I forgot what area it was. It might have been Kyode area, for those of you who know where that is in Korea, but somewhere in Seoul, basically. So I meet him in the subway, and then we walk together to the barbecue place. This is kind of like a galbi place, so like a barbecue ribs place, not like American barbecue, but yeah. So it was that kind of place. It was all you could eat. So yeah, so we walked there, and from what I remember, I should have already, first red flag, I guess, right? So we sit down, and we finally get to the place. We sit down. He asks me, oh, how tall are you? Right? So this is not a weird question in Korea, because knowing height is like just a thing, I guess. Height is important to them. So I'm 160 centimeters, right? So I tell him I'm 160 centimeters. But during this time, I'm wearing like thigh highs with heels. So I was probably around like 165 centimeters, which calculates to around like 5'2" if we're talking about feet. But yeah, and then I ask him, obviously, how tall are you? And he's all like, oh, I'm 180 centimeters without my shoes. So right now he's kind of wearing like Chelsea boots, so they give him like a little bit of height. But in my head, I'm all like, this dude is a liar, because with my heels on, so like I said, maybe around 165 centimeters, we were almost the same height, right? And he was wearing his shoes. So no way could he be 180 centimeters without his shoes if he's almost my height with his shoes and with my heels on. Just the math was not mathing for me. So I don't really care about height, but when a guy lies about his height after you've met him in person, I feel like that's a red flag. So first red flag of the night. Okay, so like I said, we're already at the restaurant. We get our meat. He cooks and all this. We're having conversation. Here comes the second red flag. So we're having conversation, and he talks about his ex-girlfriend. See, that's not a red flag for me. I don't really care that much if people ask me about my previous relationships or they talk about it, because sometimes it is nice to know, right? But he talks about how his previous girlfriend was a foreigner, right? I don't know if you guys know where I'm going at with this, but she was a foreigner. Okay, that's not the red flag though. The red flag though was basically, I am Asian American, so I was born in America, but my ethnicity is Vietnamese. But obviously, when people ask me, where are you from? I say America, because I am from America. But he decides to tell me, oh, when you told me you were from America, I was shocked because you don't look American. I don't look American. I think what he was trying to say is I don't look like the blonde hair, blue eyes, basically white, like a white person, right? So, second red flag, how are you gonna be telling me you dated a foreigner, you like foreigners, but don't even know that there's such thing as Asian American? Like, bro, really? Come on. So yeah, in my head, okay, I was just like, okay. So then, while we're talking during dinner, I feel like this also should have been a third red flag, maybe, I don't know. But like I said earlier, he said that he was a hairstylist, right? Cuts hair, does hair for people, and he stressed the fact that his hair salon has Pak Seo-joon and stuff like that. But during this dinner, right, he tells me, "Oh, do you know who BTS is?" I'm like, "Yes." Personally, I'm not an ARMY. I'm not a super big BTS fan, but I obviously know who BTS is. Their music is good, but I'm just not a like big fan of them. So I'm just like, yeah, I do. I do know who BTS is. And he goes like, oh yeah, like one time I did their hair for an event. So this is why my title is not clickbait. It's kind of true if he was telling the truth. But yeah, he basically did their hair during one event. And I would like to say, I don't really like people who like fully brag about these things. And I could tell he was trying to do that to impress me, I guess, but it wasn't that impressive. And then he kind of goes on to say like not very good things about them, but I don't want to get into that because, yeah, just keep that in mind. That should have been the third red flag. That, yeah. So, yeah. So during this time, actually, we do order some soju. I did tell him that I didn't want to drink that much just because obviously I work the next day, you know. But yeah, I think we ended up ordering like 2 soju bottles. My tolerance is usually pretty high, but obviously that's about 1 soju bottle each. So I was just a little, tipsy. After we finished dinner, we decided to go home because I think during this time it was like coronavirus, and this was when Korea first started like their curfew. So restaurants and stores and stuff like that had to close around 9 or 10 p.m. during that time. So yeah, so after dinner, we go onto the subway together. And just so you guys know, like when me and him were talking on the dating app, like a lot of the times in Korea, right, we always ask like, "Oh, what area do you live in?" And we usually tell like what subway station we live closest to. So, I knew which subway station he had to get off of. So, we were both heading the same way, but I lived a little further, so I had to take his subway, but then transfer to another subway to finally get home. So I could go on the subway with him and then just part ways when he gets off. So we go on the subway together. We get to a stop because I'm not drunk or anything. I'm still aware of everything. I noticed that it is stopped. And during this time, like the subway was kind of a little bit crowded. So like he was kind of standing like next to behind me. So I look at it's his stop that I could see on the TV. I look at him and he just stares at me, doesn't get out of the subway. So in my head, I'm just like, oh man, I feel like I know what he wants, but I'm just gonna give him benefit of the doubt and play dumb and just see maybe he'll just get off on the next stop and I just forgot what his closest subway station was. So next stop, we get there. I look at him. He looks at me and does no. Another stop. He looks at me, or I look at him. He goes, no. So by now, I'm just like, okay, no, I need to tell him. Like, so I kind of turn to him. I'm just like, you're not going home with me, right? And then by this time, it's my stop to get off and transfer. So, you would think he gets the message. He's not going home with me. Maybe he received it, but didn't want to understand it. So he ends up following me. And at this time, I'm trying to walk as fast as I can, but he follows me and starts like calling my name and stuff like that. And at this point, I'm kind of like, this dude is straight stalking me, following me, right? So I'm like messaging my friend like, hey, call me. So like I could say that you're at my house so this guy doesn't like try to come over. So like I'm like trying to call my friend, being like, oh, like you're at my house right now, right? And then I have to tell him again because by this time I'm at my other subway and it's almost here. And I tell him like, you're really not going home with me. And then he's all like, fine, then pay me back for dinner. This guy, like, do you guys? So yeah, so he's all like, pay me 30,000 won. So I'm like, okay, whatever, just like send me your information. So yeah, so basically I paid 30,000 won to him, which I would say is about like 25 US dollars maybe, but keep in mind, we did go to an all-you-can-eat place, and in Korea, it's really not like super expensive. So I'm like 99% sure I paid for part of his dinner too. But yeah, so basically, because he didn't go home with me and, probably do the dirty, he wanted his money back for the dinner he paid for because he wasn't gonna get what he wanted. Yeah. I wonder though, if I did let him over and we did do that, would that be considered him paying for it? If you guys know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. So that was the first time I've ever met up with any guy that was like 30 and up, and that was probably like the worst date I've ever been on. So I think moral of the story is don't listen to your friends. Just kidding, but yeah, that was my story time. Thank you for anybody that finished watching this video. If you got to this point of the video, let me know if you want to hear more stories like this because sadly enough, I have a lot more. So once again, I don't know who watched this, but thank you and have a good day.